You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Thursday. We are back not doing the mailbag. I still have to do the mailbag from last week. It's a struggle, folks. It's a struggle. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day is the tagline. But again, thank you for being patient with me as I go through through some stuff. But we are back here again today on Thursday to discuss a couple different things. I want to get into the Colin Kaepernick, his team honorary team captain in spring game. I want to talk a little bit about just kind of what we heard from a couple defensive and an offensive player on Thursday afternoon at Schembechler Hall, and just kind of get into that. And then there was one thing that I think was really cool from Tony Dungy that we can discuss as well. So it's probably going to be on the shorter side because it's not particularly qualitative. I feel like we're going to get a little bit more qualitative after Saturday with the spring game, in which I'm going to try to have a reaction episode after the spring game. It'll be several hours afterwards, of course, but that's going to be the hope and the goal. So we will try to do what we can there. Anyway, let's get into this Colin Kaepernick stuff, because I know that that's kind of the thing that people are talking about now. I've gotten some backlash to calling it a controversial decision by Jim Harbaugh, or saying that he's a controversial NFL guy. And I understand that there's going to be people that draw lines on political stances due to everything that happened with Colin Kaepernick, whether it's the him kneeling for the national anthem. Obviously, a lot of people have very strong beliefs as far as whether or not he should have done it. There's other people that just applaud him for doing it and creating awareness. And there's others that have different views and whatnot. I'm not here to get into the views of it all, right? I have my own views, and mostly my own views are I tend to not care that much. I don't think it's in the sense of, like, if it's something that you're up in arms about or like wildly celebrating, honestly, I think it's relatively innocuous. And as far as, there's a lot of people out there that are saying I'm switching my fandom to Michigan State, which is absurd, or saying I'm switching my fandom. I saw one saying I'm becoming a Penn State fan. I'm done with Michigan football after this. All of that. I think it's absolutely ridiculous and innocuous, because it wasn't like he's come to Ann Arbor to be like, he's not coming and being the honorary captain for the football team because he's trying to say, like, hey, I want to take the part that had nothing to do with my playing in my NFL career, and I want everyone in Michigan to follow that. It was really, like, as far as whether you agree or don't agree with his stand, it was a relatively innocuous stand, right? He wasn't, as Eddie Izzard used to say, he wasn't like Crazy Eddie putting babies on spikes. You know what I mean? As far as him coming to Ann Arbor and becoming an honorary captain, he was Jim Harbaugh's quarterback. Jim Harbaugh selected him in the NFL draft out of Nevada, and Colin Kaepernick became who he was, became a notable NFL quarterback because of Jim Harbaugh. To me, that's all you have to know, right? Like, Jim's not going to welcome back a extremely notable, albeit firebrand type player back, into his building, a guy that everyone on the team knows. Certainly, we heard some really positive feedback from the three players. Granted, that, you're not going to hear the players be like, when we ask them, like, what was your reaction to Colin Kaepernick being honorary captain? What was his speech like? They're not going to be like, well, he came and it was stupid and I think he's stupid. They're not going to say that, of course. But generally, it seemed like it was a very positive experience for them. And it seems like it's like everything with Jim, it tends to be all about football. It seems like it's all about football. Listen, you don't like it? Okay, whatever, move on. It's not that big of a deal, ultimately. It doesn't really matter that much. And if you really feel like it's something that is a make or break thing for you, then I think you should take a minute and try to figure out a little bit more about why for yourself, especially when it comes to Michigan. Because if you sit there and say, I am done with Michigan because of this, well, look at the University of Michigan. I've been very much open about the fact that I'm a libertarian. So that means I tend to fall on the right side of the aisle on a lot of things. Not to get into politics too much, but have to at least address that part. The University of Michigan does not align with a lot of the things that things that I believe politically. So with that in mind, like, if you really love Michigan football, understand that is the front doorstep of the University of Michigan. And if you have a problem if Colin Kaepernick is the straw that broke the camel's back, then you just have not been paying attention to things that are going around in the school that you claim to love, right? I still love Michigan. You know, that's where I got my degree. I was born at University of Michigan Hospital. My late, really amazing grandfather was an alum of Michigan. I'll never not love Michigan. But that doesn't mean that you have to look at every single thing and say, I agree with, if I don't agree with all of it, then I'm not going to love it. That's completely asinine to me. So if you're up in arms, if you're upset, I ask you to question why. Why does this bother you so much? On the flip side, the people that are celebrating it like it's the biggest win since Ohio State, ask you to question why too. It's ridiculous. Ultimately, it's Jim Harbaugh bringing back a player he coached in San Francisco and bringing him back around. This is nothing new. It's no different than Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, those guys being around, right? We've seen a lot of these guys be around throughout Jim Harbaugh's tenure. It's nothing different. So I say relax either way. People are getting a little too fired up one way or the other, and I think that's a little absurd. All right, we are going to move on. But before we do, listen, our next partner has a product that I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I need more. I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I need more vitamins. I need different supplements that really work for me. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. So with that in mind, keep in mind it is lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, which is important to me. No GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery. Supports mental clarity and alertness. And the one thing with the best things, Athletic Greens use the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. It costs less than $3 a day. So you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, listen, man, I love March Madness, but I am just struggling. I always struggle every year. That's why I'm hedging my bets this year with Stat Heroes NCAA Pick'em contest. Stat Heroes NCAA single-game pick'ems pits the star players against each other, an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers and always seem to have the advantage. Start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often. Why? Because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you are going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can come through to take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on sets of players you choose. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. The simple, sleek gameplay will have you playing in minutes. That's what daily fantasy is meant to be. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockdown using the promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockdown, promo code LOCKEDON. That's a 100% match. stathero.com/lockdown, promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's continue on here. We had a press conference today, had 3 players. Nothing groundbreaking, but that, again, I think that's just the general. Nothing has been particularly groundbreaking. It's not like, it seems like back in the day we'd get like something that was just like, oh man, the headline writes itself. I can't wait for people to click on this thing because I don't even have to. I'm not saying sensationalize. We're not always sensational. I mean, that is the part of it, right? You want to. I'll let you know part of the science. Like, you have to draw people in. You do. I know people complain about it. You try not to be clickbaity. You know what I mean? Like, if I have some kind of headline that sounds clickbaity, I make sure that the content is in there. Clickbait's when it's like, you go into something and either you can't find the content or it's in like a literal click, and that thing is like buried in the back. I don't do that. I try to make it worth your while when I'm writing something. But once upon a time, it used to be, I can remember there was something with Rashawn Gary that he said, and I just remember being like, I wish I could remember what it is off the top of my head. I just remember being like, man, people are going to be up in arms in a good way. People were. We don't really get much of that now. Again, nature of the team is a little bit different. But so we spoke to Jaylen Harrell, Kris Jenkins, and AJ Henning today. We didn't really speak very long to Jaylen Harrell. Didn't have a heck of a lot to say. But I think that Kris Jenkins is always really interesting. I think the interesting thing about him is just seeing him is that he says he's 277 pounds right now. And to look at him, like, I mean, he's got a lot of room that he can put more on that frame, which is his goal. He says he wants to be up like 295 or so. But you look at him, and if you would have asked me, like, what does that guy weigh? Without having any idea, I'd be like, he's probably like 230. He is a lean 277, which is, I think, great, right? It's certainly better than being like a really out of shape 277, but he's lean. He looks great. So he's had a lot to say, in especially in terms of, we do want to get production, pass rush production from more than just the ends. That's up to him and Mozzie, and like he and Jaylen Harrell both spoke on Mozzie, and it's like, this dude is a freak. Like, he really has taken it to another level. So the hype defensively is really centered around Mozzie. Now, you can look at that one of two ways. Mo Hurst was the positive, or Aiden Hutchinson last year. Those are the positives. Donovan Jeter, love him, I do. He's my guy. Known him since he was a recruit. Every year we've heard, we heard, hey, Mo Hurst really, really rising up. We've also heard Donovan Jeter really like just as good. And that they aren't exactly the same. Donovan Jeter, I thought, played pretty well last year. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that he wasn't that exact guy that it's like, oh, first round pick right there. That's what I'm saying. Mozzie, I feel, is getting a little bit of that Mo Hurst, Aiden Hutchinson type deal. Like, he's going to come in and blow some stuff up. And I'm excited. I'm here for it. I think that there's a lot to like about him. And then you pair him with Kris Jenkins. I don't know. I'm starting to buy into this defensive line, especially because it's like, I know the coaches are going to be all rah-rah generally this time of year, but it's one of those things where we have certainly heard when it's like, or you can tell sometimes it's like, well, we got a lot of work to do. We're trying to find some different guys to fill a couple different areas. Not really what we're hearing right now. It's kind of more of, this is going to be really good. Yeah, we understand. We don't have Aiden and we don't have Ajabo, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be taking a big step back. That just means we need to get production from other areas and do some things differently. And I think one of the interesting things that we heard, I think it was from Kris Jenkins, that said, like, listen, we weren't really trying to establish an interior pass rush last year because we didn't need to. Now, yeah, we feel like we need to because we don't have otherworldly talent on the ends. And that's not saying bad things about Mike Morris, Taylor Upshaw, or Jaylen Harrell, but it's more of we recognize we had two of the best to ever do it in Ann Arbor last year. So we want to develop more. And I think, and I got in a discussion with Jake Butt about this because at first he was like, ugh. Mike Elston said basically the same thing. And he's like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, listen, I think this is a good thing because it's a recognition of what the team is. And Michigan hasn't had an interior pass rush really since, 2017? Since Mo Hurst, when he was the most dominant defensive player on the team. Aside, Devin Bush was still coming into his own. I think if they can get Mo Hurst type production, which is asking a lot, but if they can find a way to get something, at least Mo Hurst light out of Mozzie Smith, the sky is absolutely the limit for the defense because I have a lot of faith in the back end. You got to really love what you've got with Jamon Green and DJ Turner as your corners. I have a lot of faith in R.J. Moten. It's Makari Page right now playing next to him. Rod Moore certainly will be in that conversation when he returns healthy. Linebackers, I mean, there's good names there. Junior Colson certainly could be, not the same player as Devin Bush, but that type of elite type of guy. Next to him, is it going to be Michael Barrett, Kalel Mullings, Nikai Hill-Green? Who were all the guys there? Jaden Hood, we'll finally get to really kind of see him on Saturday. Those are all the types of guys that you want. You want to know what you're working with in that front. But they act like the defensive front is the strength. The front seven, no less, and I have a lot more confidence in the back four. So that tells you something. AJ Henning also spoke to us today, and he spoke a lot about the wide receivers, the freshman wide receivers in particular, and he's like, they're just playmakers, man. They're just going out there making plays. And I mean, the one thing that I would like to hear is not this like everyone's doing great type of thing, but I mean, that is what we're hearing, and that doesn't make it untrue, right? It's like, what are you seeing for the freshman wide receivers? I want to hear very particularly like Darius Clemens is a beast. And I do feel like that's the case, but we're hearing all three kind of lumped together as like these guys are insane. And it does remind me, and I know it didn't really work out great, but it reminds me of that 2017 class when they were early enrollees, right? Like, Donovan and Tariq are just catching everything. That's what it seems like. And I think the good news is in 2017, Michigan needed that, right? Michigan absolutely needed that. They don't need that right now. So that's the good news. So those are my big takeaways from that. I'm sure there's more. I haven't gotten into going back and looking over everything. I've just written 2 articles, but those are the big takeaways that I have. So, all right, we are going to continue on. But before we do, I got to tell you a little something about Built Bar. Y'all know how much I love Built Bar. It's really become that much more important to me in my weight loss journey. Hopefully, if you're watching on video, you can see my more svelte face. I have lost 12 pounds so far. Built Bar plays a big part in that. Helps me lose weight while keeping my muscular frame. So that's good. I don't want to lose muscle. I want to just lose fat. And that's the good thing about Built Bar is it can help with that because it's low calorie, low carb, high protein. And guess what? They're delicious. If you don't know what it is, it tastes like a candy bar, but yet good for you, all natural ingredients, real ingredients, stuff like that. I currently have a couple white chocolate cookies and cream left. But I love peanut butter brownie, coconut brownie chunk. Those are some special flavors, but like toffee almond, coconut almond, those are some of my other favorites. They've got so many great flavors. So do like I do. I put my money where my mouth is. I have spent a lot of money of my own to buy Built Bar constantly. I always make sure I have at least a box, even if I slow jam it a little bit, have one every 3 days or whatever. It's something that I go to at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15. That's built.com, promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order of Built Bar. All right, we are going to finish up here with a little something that I thought was really cool that happened yesterday. So I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you've seen the account Big Game Boomer. It's just a dude that does a bunch of lists. I think it's a dude. I don't know. It's just a person that does a bunch of lists, and usually they're more current, like, best offensive lines in college football this year, best wide receiver coaches in college football this year, most overrated coaches, most under, stuff like that. And it tends to be controversial because it does seem like he's just trying to get engagement. Sometimes it seems like he's targeting Michigan or whatever. But, I mean, he's from Oklahoma, but clearly every time Michigan is on the wrong side of one of his lists, people flip out. Well, this time it wasn't a Michigan person who did. I mean, not University of Michigan person. It was a state of Michigan person. And that's because the Big Game Boomer put out a list of the top 100 college football wide receivers of all time. And he had 3 Wolverines on there, which is great, right? There were only 3 Ohio State players as well, and they were well below where pretty much any of the Wolverines were. So you had 2 in the top 10. Number 7 was Desmond Howard. Number 9 was Braylon Edwards. But number 33 was Anthony Carter. And a Mr. Tony Dungy, former head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, former head coach of the Super Bowl winning Indianapolis Colts, the guy who really made the Tampa 2 defense a thing. He took umbrage, right? He's a former safety that played at University of Minnesota, but Tony Dungy is from Jackson, Michigan. Certainly has a lot of familiarity with Ann Arbor. I wish I could remember. I didn't read his whole book. I remember I read like the first half. I remember reading early childhood. And I was like, oh, wow, he was around Michigan all the time. It seemed like he wanted to go to Michigan or, stay in Michigan, but ended up going to Minnesota. But he took umbrage. I think I'm using that right. He was he quote tweeted it, and he said, I am guessing the only times that you see Anthony Carter were on some, old fuzzy VHS tapes. Because if you saw him play in person, he would easily be a top 10. That is awesome, right? That is respect, And listen, I'm way too young to remember much Anthony Carter, but obviously when I think Anthony Carter, I think of that, Indiana running into the end zone rather with high knees and everything, the Bob Ufer call. But I haven't really seen a lot of Anthony Carter. I mean, he was really getting his go before I was born and early into my life. But that is, that he's a guy that probably should be propped up a lot more that hasn't been. And reading the comments on Tony's post, on Coach Dungy's post, I thought was great because it's just a lot of people being like, you tell them. Some of them were Michigan fans, some of them weren't. Some of them were like, I happen to be watching this NFL game, this old NFL game that had Anthony Carter in it. I'm telling you, he's the real deal. So, I don't know, that's just a cool thing. Anytime that you got someone like Tony Dungy, he's obviously a big name, being able to come out and say something like that, it's huge, it's great. So, anyway, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Friday. Hopefully, I'm going to do the mailbag from last week tomorrow, if it's still relevant. We'll see. But anyway, that's going to do it. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching and or listening. Peace.